Hey guys, welcome to the 68th C programming tutorial, and in this tutorial we're going to begin looking at reading from files. And anytime that you want to read or write to a file, just make sure that you've included the stdio header file at the top right here, because all the function prototypes and all the structs associated with files are inside of this header file right here. Alright, so anytime that you want to start reading from a file or writing to a file, you first need to open the file. So we're just going to go ahead and call the function fopen in order to open it. And all the functions associated with files start with an F to tell you that they are associated with files. So fopen really translates into file open. And this fopen function takes two parameters. The first parameter is just the path or the location to the file on your computer. So inside of quotes right here, we just need to put the path of the file that we're going to be reading from. And we're going to be reading from this file right here. It's called example.txt and it's located on my desktop. So I just need to say C:, since it's located on my C drive, and then I need to put 2 backslashes. Because anytime that your compiler sees a single backslash inside of a string, it thinks that it's going to be an escape character. So an escape character would be like /n or something. Well, that's not what we're trying to achieve. We just want to have a single backslash inside of our string, so we need to put 2 backslashes right next to each other in order to nullify that escape character feature. Alright, so we're just going to put C:// users/Atom/desktop and then just the name of my file, which is example.txt. Okay, and like I said, this function takes 2 parameters. The second parameter is just going to be the open mode. So the open mode just tells the fopen function what you plan on doing with your file. Do you want to read to it, or do you want to read from it? Do you want to write to it? Do you want to append text to it? All of the above. Well, right now we just want to read from the file, so we're just going to say R. And the open mode is passed in as a string and not a character, so you have to have it in double quotes and not single quotes. The fopen function returns a pointer to a file struct, which basically just contains information about the file. We're not really too concerned with what the file struct actually contains because that's worried about with all the file functions. And anytime that you want to perform an operation on a file or call a file function, you have to pass that file struct around so that those functions knows which file to read or write to or perform whatever operation you want. So, like I said, this just returns a file struct pointer, so we just need to say file pointer, I'll just call it file, and set it equal to whatever file struct pointer this fopen function returns. Alright, so the first thing that we want to do is just read the first character inside of this file right here. So in order to read a character from any file, you're just going to want to call the fgetC function. So the F stands for file, and then the C just stands for character, so file get character. And this function just takes one parameter, and that's the file that we want to read the character from, so just file like that. And then it obviously just returns the character that it read. So we'll just go ahead and print out onto the screen the character that this function reads. So modulus C for character, and then we just want to print out the character that it reads. So after we're done working with a file, you're going to want to close it. And closing it allows other programs to read and write to the file. So we're just going to want to go ahead and close the file, so fclose for file close, and it just takes one parameter, which is the file we want to close. Okay, so once again, we're just going to go ahead and open the file right here. We want to open this file, and we want to read from it. And then we're just going to go ahead and read the first character inside of the file, and then we're just going to go ahead and print that character out onto the screen using the printf function. And then after we're all done reading from it, we're just going to close the file so that other programs can actually read from it or write to it. Okay, so when we run this, we should just get a C out onto our screen since the first character inside of this file right here is just a capital C. So we run this, and obviously we just get a capital C. Alright, but that's not really that useful. Only reading the first character in a file really isn't going to help you very much. So let's say that we want to read all of the characters inside of this file. Well, we're just going to go ahead and loop over the fgetC function. So we're just going to pass through our file, and up here we'll just create a character variable to store the character that it reads in it. So we'll say charC up here, and C just equals the character that this function reads. Well, how do we know when to stop looping if we want to loop over this line of code right here? Well, the fgetC function will return something called the EOF constant, end of file constant, whenever it's finished reading, whenever it reached the end of the file. So we're going to say we want to do this line of code right here. So do this line of code, and then we want to do this line of code while C doesn't equal the end of file constant. Alright, and then right after we read this character, we're just going to go ahead and print it out onto the screen. So printf the character that we read, so modulus C and then that character. Alright, so once again we just open our file, we're opening this file, we're reading from it, and then we're just going to go ahead and read the first character in the file and set it equal to C. So we're going to read this capital C, and it's going to be stored inside of this character variable right here, and then we're going to go ahead and print it out. And then since C stores the value capital C, C obviously doesn't equal the end of file constant, so we're just going to keep going up here. So then we read the next character in the file, which is just going to be a space, and then we store that space character inside of this C character variable. We print out the space onto the screen, and a space obviously isn't the end of file constant, so it's just going to keep looping. And it'll keep looping and looping until it gets to the end of the file. And then it's this function right here, fgetC, will return the end of file constant, which will be stored in C. It'll print that end of file constant out onto the computer, which doesn't really matter because the end of file constant is a non-printable character. So it'll just print out nothing onto our console, and then C is obviously the end of file constant, so it'll just stop right there, close the file, and then return 0. Alright, so when we run this, we should just get the entire contents of this file onto our screen. Yep, we get C is really fun, and C# is also a good language. Alright, so that's the end of this tutorial, so see you guys.